Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Please take a seat. My name is Mike McKirdy, and I have the honour and privilege of being the President of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow for one more day. Tomorrow I pass on to my friend and colleague, Professor Hani Atiba, President-elect, and this is therefore my last Diploma ceremony as President. So you're all very welcome, and I hope you enjoy being with us this evening. The college was founded 425 years ago. In fact, last Friday, the 29th of November, was our 425th birthday. We were founded by a man called Peter Lowe, who was born here in Glasgow in around the year 1550. We're not exactly certain of his date of birth or exactly where he was born, but we do know that he travelled to Paris. He followed the advice of Hippocrates, which is if you wanted to learn surgery, you should go to war. And at that time, the continent of Europe was riven by the wars of religion, and France and Spain were fighting that war all in and around Paris, and that's where he had his surgical training. We're celebrating in our 425th year innovation, and Peter Lowe was a great innovator. He published the first textbook of surgery, the whole course of chirurgery, in the English language in 1597. And a little fellowship lapel pins, which some of you will be wearing, and I've got mine here, comes from the design and the artwork within that book, the whole course of chirurgery. He returned here to Glasgow in 1598, and he found standards of medical practice to be wanting. There were poor training, poor standards of practice, and he was accustomed to much higher standards working in Paris. And so he petitioned King James VI of Scotland, son of Mary Queen of Scots, who would go on to become King James I of Britain and Ireland in 1603. And he petitioned him to say he would like to set up a faculty of physicians and surgeons, and at that time also apothecaries, pharmacists we would say today, to try and improve standards of medical practice. At first, here in Glasgow, that time quite a sleepy hollow with a university, the fourth oldest in the UK, founded in 1451, but only a town of 5,000 people or so. And the college's first remit was to improve medical practice here in this city and in the west of Scotland. These days, as many of you will know who've come from far away to join us this evening, we are a 16,000 strong membership organisation of physicians and surgeons and dentists and experts in travel medicine and podiatric medicine from over 100 countries in the world. And there's actually, you represent 11 different countries, those of you who are coming to join us this evening as new fellows and members. So we hope you enjoy being with us this evening. That's the number one thing. The college's first motto at the top of our crest is Conjurat Amici, which means together in friendship. And we hope that with us this evening, you feel that you're among friends and that you enjoy being here at this ceremony as we welcome you as new members and fellows of the college. Before we get to you, we have to deal with a couple of VIPs, very important people. And therefore, I'm going to ask Jane Chiodini to come and join me here in the middle of the stage, and Professor Jackie Taylor, immediate past president of the college, to come and read Jane's citation as we admit her as an honorary fellow. Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellows and members, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege and a real personal pleasure to give this citation for Jane Chiodini for honorary fellowship in travel of the Faculty of Travel Medicine. Jane's played a very significant role, not just in our own faculty, but in the global field of travel medicine, where she's recognised as a leading figure, particularly in education and training. The story begins in 1973 when she began her nurse training in St George's Hospital, then her postgraduate training in neurology and neurosurgery. She then completed midwifery training at the West Cheshire Hospital and became a medical ward sister. After a break to have her family, she became a practice nurse, and it was here that her interest in travel medicine was piqued. For many, an interest would have sufficed, but not for Jane. She was in the first cohort of an MSc in travel medicine run by the University of Glasgow, an entirely distance learning degree, and at that time that was an exceptionally unusual thing. She's reflected that at the start of her course, she didn't have an internet connection or a computer. A steep learning curve indeed. But undaunted, she graduated in 1998. And I think that just gives us a glimpse of her true grit and determination. Over the course of her career, Jane, who's extremely modest, has held many prestigious roles, nationally and internationally. She's been an executive board member of the British Travel Health Association, chair of the Royal College of Nurses Travel Health Forum, chair of the Nurse Professional Group of the International Society of Travel Medicine, to name but a few. She's also been editorial board member of the Practice Nurse Journal and of the Travel Medicine and Infectious Diseases. Jane's got a great interest and expertise in education and became heavily involved with the diploma and foundation courses in travel medicine run by the University of Glasgow. Very selfishly, as a college, we have benefited enormously from Jane's expertise. She was one of the founder fellows of the Faculty of Travel Medicine in 2006. She was on the executive board as honorary secretary and director of education, and it came as no surprise to any of us when she was elected as dean-elect in 2017 and then dean from 18 to 21. Jane's election was groundbreaking. She was the first female dean of travel medicine and the first nurse to hold that office. Not one to rest on her laurels, she strongly advocated for maintaining and raising standards and was instrumental in writing the publication of Good Practice Guide for providing a travel health service. And she's also driven forward the establishment of the Professional Development Certificate in Travel Medicine. In 2022, Jane gifted the Jane Chiodini Prize, which is awarded to the highest performing student in the postgraduate diploma of travel medicine. She's received many other awards and accolades. She was awarded Queen's Nurse in 2015, the first International Society of Travel Medicine Distinguished Nurse Leadership Award. And in 2022, she was recognised in the Queen's New Year's Honours List for training and developments in travel medicine. Did I mention that in the midst of all of this, she's established and runs her own training company, develops incredible digital resources, and has actually been furthering her own training in digital education. Most recently, in 2023, she was a joint winner of the inaugural J. Keystone Prize for Education, presented at the International Society of Travel Medicine in Basel. A stellar career indeed. But what of Jane the person? Jane and Peter, who's here tonight and who has himself been a past dean of the faculty and contributed so much, they're something of a power couple in travel medicine. The Michel and Barak of travel medicine. They met in a restaurant called the House of Cooks, where a group was out for dinner. It was one of those dinners where people rotated every course to sit beside someone else. She and Peter met over pudding. He clearly rather liked the look of her. He was on call that weekend, but sought her out afterwards, and the rest is history. They've supported each other throughout their careers, and I know that Peter has been her own personal rock. They have 2 sons, James and Jonathan, of whom they are very proud. I felt very fortunate to work so closely with Jane during my own term of office. I've described her incredible achievements, but it's her personal qualities and values that really make her exceptional. She's a leader who builds by consensus and takes people with her. She's got great determination and perseverance and a quiet inner strength which ensures she will always finish what she has started. Most importantly, Jane has the utmost integrity and treats everyone with kindness, consideration and respect. Mr. President, it's my great pleasure to invite you to confer on Jane Chiodini the Honorary Fellowship.
Jane, by the powers invested in me by the Council of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow, I'm delighted to confer upon you this honorary fellowship of our college. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.
And can I now ask my colleague, Ms. Viv Goff, to come and read the citation for this year's President's Medal, and Professor Moodbuta to come and join me here in the middle of the floor.
Thank you very much, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen. This college awards the President's Medal each year to recognise as outstanding work by one of our members or fellows. And I'm delighted that this year the honour will go to Professor Moodbuta in recognition of his contribution to global health and environmental sustainability in healthcare. And it gives me great pleasure to provide this citation for him. Mood is currently the chair in ENT surgery and Professor of Sustainable Healthcare at Brighton and Sussex University, and an honorary consultant and clinical green lead for University Hospital Sussex. He graduated from King's College Medical School in 2000 and trained as an ENT surgeon, completing a doctorate in philosophy at Balliol College, Oxford during his training years in chronic otitis media. After this, he was subsequently appointed as a clinical lecturer at the UCL Ear Institute and was then a visiting fellow at the University of Western Australia. He has given many invited national and international lectures, authored over 150 journal articles, and written 2 books and several book chapters. He's also raised over £6 million in research grants. His more recent grants have been looking into research in sustainability and the circular economy, as well as tackling modern slavery. He supervised several PhD students, adding to the scientific evidence base which lends weight to the cause of improving sustainability in healthcare. He's had a long commitment to global health. After completing his training, he spent 5 months training the first mastoid surgeons in Cambodia, and then took up fellowships in Western Australia to deliver care to remote Aboriginal communities alongside the local healthcare providers. He's also worked and collaborated with local healthcare providers in many countries: Uganda, Cambodia, Zambia, Fiji, Bangladesh, Malawi, South Africa. I'd love to see your holiday snaps sometime. That must be quite impressive. He's a consultant to the WHO programme for the prevention of deafness and hearing loss, where he's developing their ear care training. This work abroad presumably led to his interest in labour rights in the production and supply of medical goods. He spent a lot of time speaking out and raising awareness of the shocking unethical labour practices which exist internationally in the production of everyday NHS items such as surgical instruments and gloves. In 2007, Mood founded the award-winning Medical Fair Trade and Ethical Group at the BMA. And this organisation works alongside the UK government to investigate, promote and facilitate ethical and fair trade in the healthcare industry. He's been similarly pivotal in raising awareness on the environmental harms which are caused by our medical and surgical practices. His research has looked into the carbon footprints of surgical procedures and helped to develop mitigation strategies to try to reduce our carbon footprint and our reliance on single-use items within healthcare. He's presented at many national and international conferences on sustainability, and some of you may have been there 2 years ago when he presented at our college conference on sustainability as well. He's recently authored the Green Surgery Report in collaboration with the UK Health Alliance on Climate Change, which provides a compendium of evidence on how to minimise the environmental harm of surgical care. He's an incredibly engaging and persuasive speaker who's very generous with his time and keen to raise awareness on these important issues. And therefore, Mr. President, I believe Professor Moodbuta is a very worthy recipient of the 2024 medal, and I'd now ask you to bestow this medal upon him.
Professor Moodbuta, it is a real pleasure to award you this medal, the President's Medal of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow for 2024. Congratulations. Thank you. Can I now ask Professor Abirani College Registrar to administer the oath to our new fellows and members. Happy.
Thank you, President. Please be upstanding. Do you solemnly and sincerely declare that you will be faithful fellows and members of this college, obey all laws, regulations, and bylaws made and to be made by the college, and will do nothing which, in the opinion of the college, is prejudicial to the interest of or derogatory to the honor of the college or your profession? Please be seated. May I please request Richard Hull, Vice President, to present the diplomas to all new medical fellows, starting Fellowship qua Physician, FRCP Glasgow, Anandi Damodaran. MRCP Glasgow, Fiona Beaton. Emily Hesketh. Phew Din Kang. MRCP UK, Abimbola Adelakun. Adnanur Rahman Chowdhury. Dirbia Cosgrove. Ebtihaj El Saraj. John Holden. Rachel Home. Kang Yang Ng. Thank you, Richard. May I request Mr. John Camilleri Brennan, Vice President Surgical, to present the diplomas to all new surgical fellows and members, starting with Surgery, Conjoined Specialty Fellowship in Urology, FRCS Ural Glasgow, Chin Yun Lee. Welcome. Lim Wei Sen. Moving on to FRCS Glasgow by election, Goran Abdullah. Manzoor Ali. FRCS Ophthalmology Glasgow, Shantini Satyaraj. MRCS Glasgow, Hewa D. Fonseca. Moafag El Said. Dinesh Emaneni. Sachin Kemka. Widad Mohammed, Sami Syed Mohammed. Tapas Kumar Mohanty. Wanaku Ranawira. Moving on to MRCS Ophthalmology, Glasgow, Shaiji Kumaran. MRC PSG, Glasgow, Ahmed Hussein Al-Haj. Thank you, John. May I invite Professor Christine Goodall, Vice President, Dental, to present diplomas to all new dental fellows and members, starting with the Intercollegiate Specialty Fellowship in Pediatric Dentistry, Louis Hua. FDS RCPS Glasgow, Anmol Agarwal. Angela Harkins. Now moving on to the Intercollegiate Specialty Membership in Orthodontics, Arthi Vadivel. Now it's the MFDS of the RCPSG, RM Sumudu Himesha Medawala. Gurbir Kaur Sandhu. And the UK Dental Undergraduate Award to Elaine Marty. Thank you, Christine. May I invite Ms. Jane Robbie, Interim Dean of the Faculty of Podiatric Medicine, to present the diplomas to new Podiatric Medicine Fellows and members, starting with the FFPM RCPSG, Andrea Gladden. Simone Karen McConney. Thank you, Jane. President, may I request you to give the President's address? That concludes the diploma ceremony. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Abby. Thank you very much, Abby, and welcome all of you to the college. As the registrar read out each of your names and you came up across the college hall to shake my hand and to come and to receive your diplomas, whatever the colour of your gown, whatever exam you had undertaken, you got a big round of applause. And so you should, because each of you has worked hard to achieve what you have, whichever post-nominal diploma you received from us this evening. That has involved hard work. It's involved coming home after long days of clinical work to study, to prepare for these exams. When you wanted to watch the telly, instead you were opening a laptop, turning on a desk lamp, and you took time away from other activities in life to prepare for these exams. So you absolutely deserve our applause this evening. But I would suggest there's some other people here tonight who also deserve a round of applause. And they don't have these colourful fancy gowns on. They're sitting up at the back here. Proud mums and dads, partners, spouses, children. And they have all supported you on this journey. So I suggest that you join me in standing up and turning around and giving them a big round of applause. So what is a Royal College? What's this organisation that you've joined? There's 24 Royal Colleges and faculties in the UK and Ireland, and on the whole, their main job is to set standards, and they do that, as I'm afraid you all know, by setting difficult-to-pass examinations, which test your knowledge, your clinical skills, and make sure that you have reached a certain standard in your clinical practice. And all of the Royal Colleges and faculties have that in common. Some of them just deal with one specialty, like the Royal College of Psychiatry or the Royal College of Anaesthetists. Our college is a bit unique in the UK in that we have physicians and surgeons and dentists and experts in podiatric medicine and travel medicine. So we're a multidisciplinary college. And we're very proud of that because these days clinical practice, as you all well know, is multidisciplinary. None of us can practice individually in our own specialty. We need other people to help us with that. And so we're very proud to be a multidisciplinary college. We think of ourselves as a community which you are now all part of. And I would encourage you to think about being part of our community. Maybe a bit early to think about being an examiner, but one day, that's maybe something to do. To be an educator, to teach, to help other people who are preparing for their examinations, to think about teaching on our clinical skills courses, to think about being involved with the life and the community of the college. I became a fellow on a dark December night, the 3rd of December, 1991, and I can well remember coming to this very room with my mum and dad and getting that fellowship scroll. And 30 years later, to the day, I became the college president. So maybe some of you will hold office in the college. Maybe you'll come and join us and take part in our activities. It's not all just about examinations and education. We have a very active policy network involved in trying to help shape policy for healthcare, principally here in the UK, but also further afield. We've been working through those policy networks on key themes that are of interest to us, and I'm delighted that Professor Mahmood Bhutta has been recognised for his work in environmental sustainability and global health, because these have been key themes of my life in the college, particularly through the last 3 years. And Professor Bhutta came and spoke, as Ms. Goff mentioned, at our first President's Conference in my term in 2022. And environmental sustainability is something that we can all do something about as practitioners in healthcare. About 4% of the UK's carbon output comes from the NHS, and that figure is much higher in many other parts of the world where healthcare facilities need to be cooled in order for us to provide healthcare. 2/3 of the 4% here in the UK is from us, surgeons and anaesthetists in the operating theatre. And as Ms. Goff mentioned, using, without thinking, single-use items, throwing them in the bin, many of which could be reused. And so the first part is not to recycle, but to reuse and to be thinking how we could practice more sustainably. In the following year, in 2023, we thought about health inequalities in the college. Health inequality is a big thing for us here in Glasgow, in this city, the poorest city in the UK. There are 650 parliamentary constituencies in the UK, and the 6 with the shortest life expectancies are here in this city. The average gap across the UK between the poorest and the richest is 10 or 12 years of life, but that's 18 to 20 years of healthy life. And that's not all about the provision of healthcare, but it's about the society we live in, about creating safe places, safe communities, fair work, good education. And so we talked a lot about that in 2023. And just last month we had my last President's Conference on the theme of obesity. All of us, wherever we're working in the world, know that we're getting heavier. In my term of office, one of my predecessors said, Mike, 2 things will happen. You'll get heavier and your golf handicap will go up. I said, well, it's really good because I don't play golf, so I'll concentrate on my weight. Didn't work, 1.5 area after 3 years. So we all need to work at being a healthy weight because it's good for the rest of our health. And there are real problems societally in the food that we eat and the weight that we put on. And underlying these topical themes have been consistent pieces of work, which I'm delighted to say were started. I'm delighted she's here with us this evening. My immediate predecessor, Professor Jackie Taylor, who very presciently came up with 3 themes during her time as president to talk about the workforce, the medical workforce. And as many of you know, here in the UK, there's a real problem with the workforce and having enough people in the right places to do the work. And so we have been lobbying and working with our fellow colleges and faculties on workforce and what we can do to improve the lot of the workforce. And in 2023, the UK government produced the long-term workforce plan, the first in the 75-year history of the NHS. So we'll continue to work with them towards that, and our college played a notable role in that work. We've also been talking about inclusivity. The medical workforce has not always been inclusive of everybody who wants to take part. And we know that the outcome in our examinations and our assessment is differential between those who have qualified here in the UK and those who've come to join our workforce as international medical graduates. Indeed, very tragically, we know that you can look at the colour of your skin and see different levels of attainment in assessment across the board in the UK. We're working very hard with our fellow colleges and faculties and the General Medical Council to put right that wrong. So inclusivity is an important theme in the college. As is well-being. Now tonight you're all feeling pretty happy and cheerful, you members and fellows. But we know that the medical workforce, in particular, medical and dental workforce, is not always a happy place. It's not always an easy place to work. And that's the case wherever you're working, because you take on quite a burden in being a healthcare professional. So as the college, we're really encouraging you to look after your own health, because unless you're well and healthy, you will not be able to look after your patients. And usually, and tonight is no exception, I remind you of 5 key themes in well-being. The first is to connect. Connecting to your family, your friends, your faith communities, your neighbours, clubs, societies, maybe even here in the college as your community. The US Surgeon General calculated in 2022 that loneliness, the subjective feeling of being alone, was as bad for your health as smoking 10 cigarettes a day. So don't allow yourselves to be alone. Stay connected to other people. Be active. Physical activity is good for our mental health. That's been proven over and over again. Try and stay active throughout your life, whether it's something very energetic like cycling or running or just going for a walk, but stay active. And the third one is one you probably don't want to hear from me tonight, which is to learn. You've just demonstrated your learning, passed all these exams, and I'm going to suggest to you should keep learning. But you know that medical knowledge is increasing at such a rate. It's estimated that in 1950 it took 50 years for medical knowledge to double, but by 2020 it took 73 days, probably even shorter now. So it's speeding up all the time. And we will help you in the college with your medical learning through continuous professional development and courses and conferences, and we want you to come and avail yourself of those and keep learning. But don't just learn about medicine, don't just read medical journals and research papers. Read some novels, read some poetry, widen your perspective, develop some hobbies and interests which will sustain you through your careers. And the fourth key part of well-being, sometimes called mindfulness, is to be noticing of the present moment, to think about what you're doing right now, what's good about what's happening right now. As human beings, we're very keen to dwell on the past and to plan for the future, but just enjoy being right now. Be mindful of the good things that are happening in your life day to day. And the fifth of these principles is a really counterintuitive one, which is to give. And that seems a strange thing to ask you to do, to give. In every jurisdiction in the world where the experiment is done, whether the denomination of money is a pound or a dollar or a rupee, if you give somebody a quantum of money and say, pop into town and buy something nice for yourself and come back again, and you measure the level of mental health happiness of those people before and after they go away and spend that £100 or that $100 on themselves. And then you do the same thing, but give them the £100 and say, go and buy something for somebody else. Which group do you think is the happier? The ones who are giving something to somebody else. We all know that. So give. Now, we've given you two great examples tonight of people who've really given in their career, Jane Chiodini and Mahmoud Bhutta. None of us will probably get the chance to do all of that. Maybe none of us have got the capacity to do that. But each day when you go to work, in whatever part of healthcare you're working, you will have the capacity to give of yourself and to be the very best healthcare professional you can be. And when you meet that patient, you can, and this is unique about healthcare, you can give to your fellow human beings. You're offered that opportunity every day when you go to work. So please take it up, because you will be sustained by that giving. It's counterintuitive, but you will be. And sometimes it will feel really heavy and hard as a burden. I don't know if any of you would know the name of Seamus Heaney. He was the Nobel Prize winner for literature in 1995. And Heaney wrote poetry which is often studied in the UK school curriculum. Midterm Break, a poem about a boy going home after his 4-year-old brother had been knocked down by a car. Digging, a poem about watching his father and grandfather undertake hard manual labour and realising that his calling as a writer was very different from that. You maybe know the line, "Between my finger and thumb the Scott pen rests, I'll dig with it." And he did dig with his pen, and as I say, won the Nobel Prize. When he died in 2013, his hometown of Balahi, a really small town in County Antrim in Northern Ireland, opened a museum called the Home Place in recognition of his work. And you can go along to it, and it's filled with the usual things. When you go to a writer's museum, it's got his pen, it's got his duffel coat, it's got a mock-up of his study in Dublin. He was a real polymath. He was fluent in Greek and Latin and Anglo-Saxon, not just English. He was a professor of surgery at Oxford University and Harvard. And when you come out of the museum, you can be directed to his grave, because he's buried in his hometown. So I went to look for it in 2021, just before I started in this post. And it's a very simple grave. It just has his name, Seamus Heaney, and his dates 1939 to 2013. And below it is the line, "Walk on air against your better judgment." And I didn't have a clue what that meant. So I went home and I looked it up, and it comes from a poem called The Gravel Walks, in which he observes men shoveling gravel out of the riverbed into wheelbarrows, pushing those heavy wheelbarrows up the riverbank. And when he was asked about the line having won his Nobel Prize, he said that he imagined those men pushing that heavy burden and then just being released of it. The feeling of lightness that comes from giving up a heavy burden. Or as he also said in that interview, the feeling that the marvellous is as permissible as the mundane. The marvellous is as permissible as the mundane. Because he felt that his early life was mundane, about earning a living, writing the poetry, giving lectures, teaching, bringing up his family. But as he realised that's a burden we all carry, but it's possible to live your life marvellously. And the same is in your clinical practice. It's possible to feel weighed down by that burden of looking after patients, to feel that clinical practice is a bit much. Sometimes life events add to that burden for us. But as you go about your business as young healthcare professionals, whether physicians or surgeons or dentists or experts in podiatric medicine, remember tonight, remember that you felt marvellous in receiving those diplomas. And remember, in what we hope are long, happy, fulfilling careers for all of you, that the marvellous is as permissible as the mundane. And we wish you marvellous careers. Thank you very much. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me. We'll stand up, and David will come and take the college mace here. We'll process out, and then if you all come downstairs, we'll have some refreshments, and I hope to meet many of you and your families in just a moment. David.